I always thought my arrogant boss didn't like me. Until that day in the elevator, I suddenly heard his voice. I really want to kiss Jacob in the elevator. I was stunned because I am Jacob. But I'm a man. One day at the end of overtime, my colleague and I were walking towards the elevator while chatting and laughing. After a while, the door of the slowly descending elevator opened. Michael, the young boss, was standing in the elevator with a calm expression. My curved brows froze for a moment. Oh shit. Why am I so unlucky to be in the same elevator with him today? Why would this kind of capitalist leave the special ladder for presidents and instead come to our special ladder for cattle and horses? After thinking fuck myself in my heart, I hurriedly greeted him respectfully. Michael. My colleagues also gave fake and fawning smiles. Michael nodded, then glanced at me in the front row as if unintentionally, well, come in. I hesitated whether to go in first and seek death. As a result, he was secretly pushed to Michael's side by his more cowardly colleagues. Bad luck. Just as I was thinking about how to flatter my boss politely but without being awkward, the lights in the elevator suddenly flashed twice. Before I had time to wonder, Michael's voice rang in my ears. He looks really good today. So cute. I want to pinch his face. I was shocked. Damn. How could Michael harass his female colleagues so blatantly in the elevator? I immediately turned my head in anger, ready to stop Michael's beastly behavior. What I saw instead was Michael with his eyes closed, leaning lazily against the elevator wall, his profile looking incredibly handsome. The colleagues around me were all in a daze. The elevator seemed to be peaceful and tranquil. More importantly, there were no female colleagues in the elevator. What the hell? I'm so young, and I'm actually hallucinating? I raised my hand and gently patted my forehead, feeling extremely amused. It's all Michael's fault. I'm mentally weakened by the pressure he puts on me every day. I silently glared at Michael, and in my heart I was stabbing the capitalist villain like crazy. But at this moment, I heard Michael's voice again. Fortunately, he didn't notice my peeking. But how can he be so cute? This was indeed Michael's voice, but I had been secretly staring at Michael just now. He had been resting with his eyes closed and hadn't opened his mouth, so how could there be any sound? Why is he staring at me? Is there something on my face? No, I have to keep a good image in front of him. As soon as the voice fell, I saw Michael casually raise his hand and touch his face. A typical gesture of trying to dust off one's face. This completely messed me up. What the hell? Could it be that what I heard was what my boss Michael was really thinking? The sheer absurdity of hearing Michael's inner thoughts was like a bolt from the blue. What a sin. I want to cry but I have no tears. Tears are streaming down my face. Michael is usually too majestic, and he has a naturally cool and handsome face. So much so that whenever he gave us a nonchalant look in the company, we, a bunch of cattle and horses, would tremble. Especially he is always extremely harsh on me. Under his exploitation, although my salary was getting higher and higher, I felt heavier when I went to work every day than going to the grave. So no matter whose voice I hear, I have to hear Michael's. Moreover, he seems to be a pervert who has a crush on someone and even wants to touch her but in a perverted way. If he knew that I knew his secret, wouldn't I be killed on the spot? I shuddered. I immediately decided to keep this secret locked in my heart. But then I thought again, it's not bad to hear my boss's thoughts. At least when he rejected my various reports and made me work overtime, I could quickly understand what he wanted. Okay, this is a blessing in disguise. I breathed a sigh of relief, and the feeling of being frightened to death finally eased a little. At this time, the elevator stopped on the first floor. As the door opened and I was about to follow my colleagues out, I heard Michael's voice again. I am already satisfied after just 2 minutes of being close to him today. Alas, but I really want to have some elevator sex with Jacob. As I stepped out of the elevator, my legs suddenly went weak from shock and I fell to the ground. What the hell? Michael, what did he say? Who do you want to have sex with in the elevator? Jacob, what's wrong? Michael's voice sounded from above my head, cold and indifferent. I looked up in confusion at my boss who was about to bend over to help me. Yes, I am Jacob. But I'm a fucking man. I was startled and stood up immediately, rolling and crawling. Michael, I'm fine. No need to help me, I'm leaving first. After saying that, without paying any attention to Michael's slightly surprised look, I turned around and ran away. Why are his ears so red? When I heard that, I ran even faster. I, a pure straight man, am being harassed by a pervert like you. What's wrong with a red spot on my ear? When I returned home in a daze, I collapsed there and started thinking about this outrageous thing. It's fine if I can hear my boss's thoughts, but the most important thing is, there was something wrong with his sexual orientation, and he seemed ready to take advantage of me. I was confused, shocked, and at a loss. So I decided, resign. This scheming capitalist might do something to me at any time. In order to protect the last bitter tea of us straight men, I must stay away from him. Just when I was about to write a resignation letter in indignation, my landlord called me. Jacob, the rent is going to increase slightly recently. Please send me a letter at the end of this month. Okay. After hanging up the phone, my momentum instantly faded. Michael's company is a leader in the industry. If I quit this internship which pays well but makes me lose my hair, I will have to sleep on the street next month right after graduation. Moreover, this house is closest to the company, has the most complete facilities, and does not require sharing the house with others. Between survival and bitter tea, I was forced to choose survival. Suddenly, I felt as powerless as a eunuch visiting a brothel. Alas, money is hard to earn but shit is hard to eat. The next day I crawled to the company listlessly. He was so depressed that he looked like a dead dog. Seriously, family. If there were no historical records, I would have suspected that I had built the Egyptian pyramids overnight. As I was waiting for the elevator with a sigh, I suddenly heard that familiar voice again. Jacob is unhappy today? Is the work too tiring? Then I must find a way to give him a raise. I immediately turned my head with full energy and smiled obsequiously, like a weasel seeing a chicken. Michael, good morning. Yeah, good morning. Michael replied to me indifferently. His eyes and eyebrows were distant and cold. But his eyes were fixed on me. I pretended not to see the heat in his eyes and just servilely asked for instructions from this god of wealth. Are you still taking this elevator today? Well, my elevator is broken, so I'm staying with you guys for now. No problem. Then I quickly nodded and bowed to help my handsome and wealthy boss press the elevator button. Michael glanced at me, lifted his long legs and walked in leisurely. Jacob smiles beautifully. I want to kiss him. I want to kiss you like this first, then like this, then, and finally. As I listened to the obscene language being broadcast live, my ears gradually turned red with embarrassment. It was so hot that I almost couldn't hold on the flattering smile on my face. Since you are going to give me a raise, I'll endure it. I smiled on the surface, but I was unhappy on the inside. At this time, Michael suddenly spoke. Jacob, how is your internship going lately? I gave him a fake smile and flattered him readily. Very good, I think our company's work is fulfilling, the salary is generous, and the various benefits are the best. Of course, the success of our company is inseparable from your wise decisions and superb leadership. I am honored. Michael looked at me and nodded with a half smile. Even when she tells lies, she is so cute. We should give him a raise. He has been working overtime recently to get a permanent job. He has lost a lot of weight. I feel bad for him. The smile on my lips paused. At some point, my heart strangely softened for a moment. TSK, your skills are really advanced now. I was almost moved by them. No, I have to think of a way. It can prevent Michael from making things difficult for me and delaying my promotion, and it can also stop him from keeping an eye on me. I secretly looked at Michael, thinking secretly. As a result, after thinking about it that day, I could only think of these few solutions. One is to find a girlfriend as a shield. But this dirty trick was ruthlessly rejected by me the next second. The second is to play dumb and pretend not to know. I don't believe that in the 21st century, such capitalists would force themselves on a man like me. And I think I've figured out a small pattern. That is, only when I am within a few meters of Michael can I hear his inner voice. so I try not to get close to him if I can, so that I won't be exposed. I shook my head in satisfaction. But when I got home from get off work and got out of the elevator, I saw renovation workers coming in and out of the house opposite my house. Oh my, which rich second generation has come down to earth to experience life? He even moved in a sofa worth 6 figures. The extravagant style of capitalism still exists. It seems that the iron fist of my socialism is not strong enough. I looked at him enviously for a few moments, then opened the door and went back home. I don't know if it's because I listened to Michael's inner thoughts too much in the past 2 days, but I actually dreamed about Michael that night. This dream is really hard to describe. In my dream, I was back in the company elevator. That bastard Michael is here too. So when I was woken up by the dancing sound of the lady downstairs, I was a little dazed at first. Then he started wailing while holding the pillow with a red face. Can someone tell me why the hell I dreamed about this bastard Michael? What the hell is this? After crying for a long time, I was exhausted. It's all Michael's fault. It's all Nentong's fault, the scheming one. If he hadn't been feeling sad these past 2 days and I hadn't heard it, I wouldn't have had this dream. Just as I was secretly thinking of beating up Michael, the culprit, a familiar voice suddenly rang in my ears. Last night's dream was so wonderful. When can I be close to Jacob like in my dream? I sat up suddenly and looked around with a horrified expression. What the hell? Why did I hear Michael's voice in my own house? After I realized what was happening, I didn't even bother to put on my pants. I just searched around the house tremblingly. No one. There is not even a single extra hair. Then how did I hear Michael's voice? What the hell is this? But I gradually discovered that the closer I got to the bedroom, the clearer Michael's voice seemed to be in my ears. Mind reading actually has the function of directed evolution? I was completely dumbfounded. This is really like a sparrow pecking at a cow's butt. The sparrow is eating the cow's butt. It seems that from now on I will have to listen to Michael coveting my butt when I sleep in the bedroom. I was immediately filled with tears, but I had no choice but to accept the reality. After washing up with a sigh, I prepared to go out for dinner. What a coincidence! As soon as I opened the door, I found that the rich second-generation neighbor who had just moved in across the street was also about to open the door. I immediately put on a polite smile and prepared to greet him. As a result, the moment my neighbor showed his handsome features, I felt like my cerebellum was shrinking. 7. My family, who would have thought that the rich man who moved next door to me would be my boss Michael? No wonder I could hear his thoughts early in the morning. It turns out he was right next door to me. In addition, the layout of this building is that the bedrooms of 2 households on the same floor are adjacent to each other with a wall, so I can only hear his thoughts in the bedroom. When Michael saw me, his expression didn't change much, and he nodded in the same noble and cold manner. Jacob, so you live here too? This sentence took me by surprise. From what he said, it seems that he doesn't actually know that he's my neighbor. What a coincidence, Michael. What a coincidence. Unfortunately, I already knew you lived here. Michael's voice rang in my ears again. My fake smile froze on my face. A level 1 alarm went off in my head. Known it a long time ago? For the sake of my butt, he even moved next to my house to spy on me. Is the next step to come to my house and force love on me, a pure and innocent high school boy? I immediately covered my butt and stepped back. Well, Michael, I suddenly have diarrhea and need to go home to the bathroom. Please go ahead and do your thing. After saying that, without waiting for Michael's reaction, I crawled straight back home. Before I could even breathe a sigh of relief after closing the door, I quickly put my ear to the door to listen to Michael's inner voice. Jacob seems to be afraid of me? Brother, you have set your eyes on me and are following this pervert, so of course I am scared. Alas, it seems that I was too impatient. I just wanted to see him more and didn't intend to disturb his normal life. Since he is a straight man, I should be more sensible in the future. This way we can at least be friends in the future. Michael's 2 sentences made me purse my lips. So, he didn't intend to force his love on me? Do you really just want to be closer to me? People's mouths can tell lies, but the heart cannot deceive others. I listened to the sound of Michael closing the door, lost in thought. Since he has no intention of forcing love on me, I can't show too much resistance to him. Just keep playing dumb and treat him as an ordinary boss and neighbor. Thinking of this, I feel much better. So when I met Michael on my way to work on Monday, I immediately greeted him respectfully and flatteringly as I usually did at the company. "Good morning, Michael." Michael was stunned for a moment, then his brows relaxed slightly. "Good morning, Jacob." He is not afraid of me anymore. I am so happy. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly twice. Actually, apart from the fact that he set his eyes on the butt of a homosexual like me, Michael is a top-notch man in other aspects. After all, his successful entrepreneurial story directly inspired me to join this company. This admiration reached its peak when Michael suggested that I take his car to the company. I secretly touched the bull leather seats in the Rolls-Royce and my saliva was almost flowing. I can't even take care of motion sickness. My family members, we have made progress. One day, a poor guy like me will be able to ride in such a luxury car. It makes me want to be a gigolo and hang out with rich Michael. Money is not everything, but without money, nothing can be done. So what if my butt hurts? Who doesn't suffer a little before reaching the peak of their life? After all, I won't lose anything if I tell others about picking up soap with Michael. "Jacob, what are you thinking about?" "I was thinking about you." I was imagining a better life and I replied subconsciously. But as soon as he finished speaking, the luxury car suddenly made a big S shape. The cars next to it hurriedly avoided the situation, and there were shouting, cursing, and honking of horns one after another. But when they saw it was a Rolls-Royce, they all stopped in their tracks. I was also frightened, and my thoughts, which had just been wandering, were instantly pulled back. "Shit, did I just say some bullshit? What are you thinking about?" "Thinking of you." "It's over, Michael will definitely misunderstand." I bit my own tongue and immediately stammered to make excuses. "Michael, let me explain this to you." Michael had returned to normal by now. He tilted his head and glanced at me with a burning gaze. It was so hot that I couldn't even look at it. "Well, go ahead." He said he missed me. Does that mean I still have some sense of existence? It was a misunderstanding indeed. "Michael, that's not what I meant. I just... happy, give him a raise immediately. At bonus." My voice paused strangely as I was explaining. "Jacob." Michael smiled, still waiting for my explanation. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Michael, yes, I do miss you." I didn't even dare to look at Michael's unusually dark expression at that moment. If we weren't waiting for a red light on the main road, I think Michael would have pulled my pants off right there and then. As the saying goes, wealth and honor cannot corrupt, and power cannot bend. But he gave me a raise. I have to give in when I have to, and let the misunderstanding be. Just don't misunderstand me too much. So I thought about it for a while and came up with a more euphemistic explanation. "Michael, when I touched this luxury car, I kept thinking about you, thinking that this must be the result of your hard work for the company. So I will follow your example, always keep it in mind and work harder." I said a few words to smooth it over and also flattered the guy at the same time. The ambiguous atmosphere in the car suddenly disappeared. The heat in Michael's eyes slowly faded away. He nodded lightly, turned around and continued driving. The disappointment is self-evident. "It turns out you didn't really miss me." "Huh, I was just being too sentimental." Fortunately, I didn't rush to do anything, otherwise I would have scared him again. Michael's self-reproachful voice made me scratch my hands in frustration. He wanted to say something else, but seeing Michael's cold face, he shrank his neck in dismay and didn't dare to say anything else. "It's over." Why do I feel like a scumbag who plays with people's feelings? He fished for a while at someone's place and then ran away. I secretly spit on myself twice, feeling a little guilty. At the same time, he was secretly confused by the careless words he had just said. It must be because of what Michael said in his heart these days. So I made a decision secretly. Not only did I have to act dumb afterwards, I also had to stay as far away from Michael as possible. I'm going to move my bed to the other side when I get home tonight so that I won't have to hear his thoughts all the time in the bedroom. This is good for him and for me. If it really doesn't work, I'll just take a rest and go out to play for 2 days, so that the time I spend in contact with him will be even shorter. What a coincidence. Maybe it's just what I think. When I just arrived at the company, my colleague Andrew came over with a smile. Jacob, we have a company team building activity at the end of this month. We will take turns to take a few days off to go to a villa in the suburbs. In principle, everyone has to go. Michael, are those leaders going? How could they possibly come? I breathed a sigh of relief and immediately smiled and nodded in agreement. It's a good time to go for team building and relax, otherwise I would be very upset by Michael's various inner thoughts. Early in the morning one day at the end of the month, I happily climbed onto the bus rented by the company. My colleagues were chattering away, very excited. Because I get carsick, I habitually want to find a seat near the front. But there were no seats left, and I didn't want to trouble my colleagues to give me seats, so I walked to a seat slightly further back and sat down in disappointment. The window is opened and a light breeze blows. It was so comfortable that I instantly closed my eyes and felt a little drowsy. At this moment, the noisy bus suddenly became quiet and the laughter of colleagues suddenly disappeared. What's wrong? When I opened my eyes subconsciously, I saw a familiar figure getting on the bus. He has broad shoulders and a broad back and looks cool and handsome. What the hell? Why is Michael here? While I was stunned, Michael had already walked onto the bus. After my colleagues realized what was happening, they immediately rushed to greet me with fake smiles. Hi, Michael. Michael, are you coming out to play in person? Luckily I made it in time, otherwise I would have missed the chance to hang out with Jacob. By the way, where is Jacob? As his inner voice sounded, Michael turned his gaze into the car and began searching for my location. I immediately put on my headphones, closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Can't see me, can't see me, can't see me. But after a moment, a warm gaze fell on my face. He is here. I suddenly became nervous. Brother, don't come over here, don't come over here. There are so many seats, you can just find another one. Why do you have to stare at the seat next to me? I stink if I don't take a shower. But after my sincere prayer, Michael finally came to me, and his fresh scent entered my nose. I sighed softly. There is no way to avoid it. Just as I was about to pretend to wake up and give him my seat, Michael's inner voice sounded again. Jacob fell asleep. He who is asleep. Good boy. Then I won't wake him up. Then I felt Michael leave, and at the same time, my colleague in the back row said respectfully, Michael, please sit here. Then I heard Michael reply in a deliberately lowered voice. Well, tell them to keep their voices down. They're too noisy. We can't let them wake Jacob up. He won't get carsick if he falls asleep. I was stunned for a moment, and my closed eyelashes began to tremble slightly. 11. Due to Michael's order, the colleagues dared not laugh or joke anymore and all began to close their eyes and take a light nap. The originally noisy sounds in the bus suddenly disappeared a lot. I just stared blankly and pretended to be asleep. Michael is a really good person. I pretended to be asleep and ignored him, but he still cared about me. Suddenly I wanted to slap myself twice. But I've already pretended, and now both he and I are embarrassed when we wake up, so I might as well just keep pretending. After the bus started moving, before we even left the city, my old problem of motion sickness came back. Dizziness, nausea, and vomiting. I couldn't pretend to be asleep any longer, so I opened my eyes and drank some water to try to suppress the uncomfortable feeling. As a result, the bus bumped at this moment and my face turned pale on the spot. I feel like crying but I have no tears. If I vomit in the car today, I will probably be socially disfigured in front of Michael and my colleagues. Maybe Michael will be disgusted by me and stop wanting my body. Thinking of this, I almost couldn't help laughing out loud. Well, let's just have some fun in this difficult situation. I raised my hand and opened the car window a little wider, hoping to use the wind to continue walking slowly. But it doesn't work very well. Because this driver probably used the bus as a racing car, his skills are impressive. I could only silently take out a plastic bag from my bag and prepare for the worst. Oh, I shouldn't have come. It would have been so nice to just sleep at home. Maybe I can even try some of Michael's abalone, sea cucumber, and other food. Just when I was feeling resentful, someone suddenly patted me on the shoulder. Jacob. My face turned pale and I slowly turned my head, and I saw Michael standing next to my seat. There was a hint of nervousness in his usually cold eyes. He was so upset that his face turned pale. Who chose this crappy land and this crappy car? I feel bad. Michael! Don't move. I'll give you some motion sickness medicine. Take one. Motion sickness medicine. Looking at the small pill in his hand, my eyelashes trembled uncontrollably again. Then she slowly raised her hand and took the medicine from his palm. The slightly cool fingertips brushed across his warm and dry palm, causing a slight itch. I whispered my thanks. Thank you, Michael. Fine. Michael spoke in a gentle tone. After staring at me as I took the medicine, he walked straight towards the driver's side. Go find a place to park and rest, and drive more steadily. Oh, okay, Michael. Secretly glancing at his cool and sharp profile, my heart suddenly became uneasy. It was like being poked lightly and tenderly, causing strange ripples. The driver was very obedient. On the way to the team-building site, my driving skills were forced to improve dramatically. That's called stable. The car even stopped from time to time to rest, so I got to get off and walk around. The sadness caused by motion sickness soon faded away. I hesitated for a moment, then turned around and went to a roadside store and bought a bottle of the most expensive mineral water in the store. When I found Michael, he was standing there with a sullen look on his face, listening to our supervisor flattering him. The moment he saw me, his facial lines softened a little. I clenched the water in my hand and walked over to him while facing his fixed gaze. Michael, thank you for the medicine. I bought you a bottle of water, please don't mind. Polite. I will take this bottle of water home and worship it. I'm so happy that he saw my concern. I couldn't help but smile. Indeed, I saw it. Although Michael's love is a little perverted, it sometimes scares me so much that I want to run away. But think about it from another perspective. Such an outstanding man is secretly in love with me. How great must my charm be? When I think about it this way, I feel a little inflated. In fact, I haven't been so firmly favored by someone for a long time since my parents died in an accident when I was in college. This kind of preference is different from the care of friends and the polite greetings of colleagues, and it makes people feel a little soft-hearted. Don't want to resist anymore. Thinking of this, I smiled even brighter at Michael. When I arrived at the villa in the suburbs, I was in a great mood. I ate and drank crazily with my colleagues, and also prepared to play truth or dare together. But when I started playing, I couldn't help but look at Michael in the corner. He holds a high position and has a strong aura. His colleagues were all very respectful to him, and some even subconsciously avoided him, which made him look a little pitiful. He was accompanied only by a bald supervisor. I pursed my lips, stood up and walked towards him. Michael, do you want to play? Michael probably didn't expect me to invite him and was stunned for a moment. Jacob, he is inviting me. It turns out that he is really not afraid of me anymore. Facing his suddenly deep gaze, I scratched my hands uncomfortably. It was just an invitation to play a game, but he was as excited as if I was inviting him. When I felt inexplicably embarrassed and annoyed, Michael spoke slowly. Yeah, okay. I smiled. Michael's arrival made his colleagues become extremely reserved and they looked at each other in bewilderment. But someone didn't care about the awkward silence and just waved his hand. Play as you like, I don't mind. As long as I can sit next to Jacob, that's fine. My face turned red. Shit, if a zombie takes a bite of his brain now, he'll still say, poo-poo, for being in love. I had no choice but to take the lead in livening up the atmosphere and make a few harmless jokes. The atmosphere became lively when everyone saw Michael watching with a faint smile and no objection. We are all adults, so naturally we have to take an adult approach when playing games like Truth or Dare. Kissing, hugging, and other things took turns. The female colleague was extremely embarrassed. Several times I, a pure man, felt embarrassed to watch it. But when he turned around and looked at Michael, his expression remained unchanged. Maybe everyone is bound to have bad luck once in a while, and after just a few rounds, I won the big dare. Amid my dry laughter, my male colleague slyly read out the big dare challenge. Jacob, you need to kiss any man. You have to kiss him on the mouth. What the hell? I was stunned. This big adventure instantly made the atmosphere in the private room noisy. Some colleagues even let out atavistic roars. Kissing a man, so exciting. Let me see who Jacob is going to kiss. Ha! Go away, Jacob is my Real buddy. Well, this is just a game, please don't mind me after I kiss you. I smiled awkwardly, not daring to look back at Michael in the corner. I don't mind, huh? Jacob, you pick one to kiss. Ah, okay, ha. I gave 2 dry laughs. Except for Michael, almost all the male colleagues present were straight. It would be a bit awkward for me to kiss anyone, right? Amid the crowd's booing, I had no choice but to turn my gaze to Andrew next to me. Why not kiss Andrew? He definitely won't mind. But the next moment, Michael's gritted teeth voice rang in my ears. If Jacob kisses Andrew, I will deduct all of Andrew's bonus. Shameless capitalist. He actually threatened me. But for Andrew's bonus, I turned my gaze to Thomas next to me in disappointment. Deduct Thomas's salary for this month. I slowly looked at Eric again. Eric is bald, Jacob definitely can't kiss him. I really can't kiss you. But every time I looked at someone, Michael would secretly threaten him. In order for my colleagues to return home alive today, I was forced to shift my attention to Michael. Michael's handsome face, which had won the genetic lottery, suddenly brightened up a bit. It looks exceptionally beautiful in the box where the lighting is not very bright. It made my eyes dazzle twice. Ah! Jacob is looking at me? You want to choose me to kiss, right? It seems my prayers worked. Are you praying? You're just short of putting a knife to my neck and asking me to choose you. I listened to Michael's voice playing automatically. Good luck comes, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. The booing of colleagues in the box gradually stopped. Everyone stared at me with horror, and a colleague even secretly pulled me. Jacob, that's Michael. But I had no choice but to grit my teeth, close my eyes, and speak to Michael, who was staring at me with burning eyes. Michael, can I kiss you? 15. After I finished speaking, as expected, the box was dead silent. All my colleagues looked at me in shock, with admiration evident in their eyes. I didn't care what they thought, but looked at Michael with a red face. I saw Michael slightly raised his eyelids and looked at me, nodding faintly. Can. This time, all the colleagues took a deep breath. Knowing the inside story, I wasn't too surprised. After all, Michael has been coveting me for a long time, and he would love to have more opportunities like this to be kissed by me. Hurry up and finish the kiss, otherwise Michael will be driving to the United States in his heart. So in full view of everyone, I leaned over and kissed Michael. I don't know if capitalists like Michael soak in a pool of perfume every day. As soon as I got close to him, I could smell his pleasant and refreshing scent. It suddenly made my relatively rational mind a little confused. It was like a slow-motion, complex chemical reaction that took away my breath and resistance. No wonder the lesbians in the company said that Michael's smell made them crazy. It turns out they were not lying. Slightly moist, with a hint of alcohol. Very soft, I like it very much. Michael's low sigh sounded in my ears. At this moment, the lights in the villa flashed twice inexplicably. The attention of colleagues was drawn to it. I took the opportunity to straighten up, pretending to be calm. Thank you, Michael, for your cooperation. You're welcome. Michael looked at me, and the emotion in his eyes was as natural as can be. When our colleagues turned their attention to us again, we had already sat down naturally. It's just that my ears are very hot. My heart was beating very fast. I scratched my hands to calm myself down, but I still couldn't help but want to eavesdrop on Michael's inner thoughts at this moment. This kid must have started to feel bitter. As a result, I listened for a long time but heard nothing. I tilted my head suspiciously and found that Michael was still looking at me quietly with deep eyes. That's not right. When he showed this look, the bitterness in his heart was so deep that it could be blurred. How come I can't hear anything at all? 16. I panicked when I suddenly couldn't hear Michael's inner voice. It's like a certain preference suddenly disappeared, making me feel uncomfortable and unaccustomed, and even a little scared. I anxiously moved closer to Michael, but still couldn't hear anything. What's going on? How come I can't hear it even though it's so close? Suddenly, an outrageous idea popped into my mind. Could it be that the voice I heard before was just my own imagination? This possibility suddenly made me confused. Jacob, you look so pale, what's wrong? Michael's deep, hoarse voice brought me back to reality. I tilted my head and looked at him in confusion. Then why do I fantasize that Michael has a crush on me? I can't be that hungry, right? No. It's okay, Michael. Well, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do at home, so I'm going home first. Have fun, you guys. My colleagues asked me one after another, and I didn't know how to tell them how fucked up I was feeling at the moment. I could only say a few perfunctory words and walked out of the villa area with my bag. Just after walking out of the villa for 2 steps, he was stopped by Michael. He frowned slightly, looked down at me, and spoke in a deep voice. I'll take you there, okay? His attitude was exactly the same as before, which made me calm down a little. Good. I was too distracted to lick him and could only force a smile to express my gratitude. I didn't even have time to think about how Michael's luxury car suddenly appeared at the villa. We returned home in silence. After I thanked him, I closed the door in a daze. Ever since I stopped hearing Michael's voice, I felt like something was missing. Irritable and empty. This feeling of being out of control kept me awake that night. Until the next day, someone suddenly knocked on the door. I opened the door with a sad face and saw my smiling cousin standing outside. Jacob, I came to your city for an exam. I called you for a long time, why didn't you answer? The phone is on silent, come in quickly. I suddenly felt much happier. My cousin is cheerful and has always been close to me. Since my parents passed away, her family has taken good care of me. So when she asked to stay for one night before taking the exam, I agreed without hesitation. And ordered her a bunch of things she liked to eat. As we were chatting and laughing about recent events in our hometown, someone knocked on the door again. I thought it was a takeaway and hurried to open the door, with a lingering smile on my face. It's takeout. But when I saw someone outside the door, my expression froze. It's Michael. 17. Michael. Michael's eyes quickly scanned me up and down, and his tense face relaxed a little. Well, I came here to see you. Jacob, who is that? My cousin suddenly jumped over and stuck close to me, interrupting Michael's words. It's my boss. I patted her head and told her to be serious. Hee, then you guys chat, I won't disturb you. I smiled helplessly and turned to politely introduce my cousin to Michael. It turned out that Michael's face was gloomy and there was a terrifying coldness in it. It sent chills down my spine. I called him tentatively. Michael. Michael looked at me quietly, and after a moment he said softly, It's okay, you're busy. After saying that, he turned around and went back to his home. I just almost bumped into the door frame when I entered. I opened my mouth to offer my condolences, but didn't know how to start. I sighed, closed the door, and continued eating with my cousin. After taking a few bites, there was another knock on the door. The person who came was Michael again. He said sullenly, Jacob, can I borrow some soy sauce? Oh, all right. I immediately brought him some soy sauce. Michael left mercilessly. I closed the door angrily, and less than 2 minutes later, there was another knock on the door. My door is really busy today. Still Michael. I was stunned. He continued with a stern face, Jacob, borrow a plate. I could only get him another plate. Then he left again mercilessly. Just like that, Michael knocked on my door 5 times in one night. Borrow something every time. This unusual behavior gradually made me feel something different. Brother, is your handsome boss jealous? I was stunned, then quickly denied it. What are you talking about? Why are you jealous? I'm jealous of you. He probably thinks I'm your girlfriend. As expected, handsome guys like handsome guys. I'll throw away all your gay literature sooner or later. I'm going crazy from reading it every day. I scolded her on purpose. My cousin still smiled and said, I'm serious, brother. Don't you think your boss likes you? I lowered my head and fiddled with the chopsticks. After a moment he asked in a low voice, How did you figure that out? When he looked at you, his eyes seemed to want to take off your pants right there and then. Only someone as slow-witted as you couldn't see that. I'm not stupid, eat your food. I lowered my head and ate. So, what he said was true, and it was also true that Michael liked me. I have no illusions, nor do I. Being too sentimental. I felt like my heart was rolling on a grassy slope full of wind in the summer, then rolling onto the clouds, and finally becoming a mess. My cousin saw me grinning foolishly and couldn't help but poke me. "Brother, don't you want to have a relationship with your boss?" I coughed lightly. He is a man, and I am also a man. What is there to talk about? What's wrong with men and men? As long as they like each other, they can talk about it. But brother, the key is whether you like your boss or not. I gripped the chopsticks tighter all of a sudden, and after a long moment I replied softly. I like Michael. I did respect and fear Michael at the beginning, but since I was able to hear Michael's inner voice, I understood that he would be humble because he likes me and would be happy with a little response from me. This contrasting preference makes it hard for me not to be moved. And the panic I felt when I couldn't hear his inner voice was also real. I'm afraid that this love is fake. I'm afraid that he doesn't like me. At that moment, everything became clear to me. So when Michael knocked on my door again to borrow something, I smiled and said to my cousin, "Cousin, go and help my boss get the spoon." "Cousin?" Michael, who had a sullen face just now, immediately brightened up and asked anxiously, "She's your cousin?" I smiled and nodded, yes. Michael was happy, with a happy smile on his face. 19. Facing Michael's direct gaze, I teased him calmly. "Michael, do you want another spoon?" "No." "Oh then." I curled my eyes and said, "Can you walk downstairs with me?" Michael was stunned, then nodded quickly. I have to say, the boss, who is usually aloof and indifferent, becomes so obedient, just like a big dog. It seemed as if he would never cross the line as long as I didn't wave. I put on a coat and took the elevator downstairs with him. Coincidentally, we were the only two in the elevator today. I couldn't help but think of the time in the company elevator when the lights flashed twice and I heard Michael's voice. After kissing him in the villa, the lights flickered twice more. It was as if the gods had told me to discover the secrets in Michael's heart. This coincidence made me unable to help but curl the corners of my mouth. "Jacob, what are you laughing at?" "Michael, can I call you that?" "Sure." I chuckled and took the initiative. "Michael, do you believe I can hear you?" "What?" Michael raised his eyebrows, puzzled by my sudden absurd words. "After working overtime last month, you and I took an elevator together, and that was the day I fell. Do you know why I fell? Because I heard your voice." Michael's face froze and his eyes were panicked. "What?" I turned my head to look at him and said softly, "I heard you say that the pants I wore made my butt look lifted, that I was cute, and that you wanted to have an elevator ride with me." "Jacob, stop talking." Michael gently covered my mouth. I saw his face turn red, which was rare. His behavior dispelled the last bit of doubt in my heart. Because what he said was true. Michael quickly calmed down, he removed his hand and took a step back, putting some distance between us. "I'm sorry, I just can't help myself. If you feel uncomfortable, I won't think about it anymore." After he finished speaking, the elevator arrived and he turned around and left the elevator. Michael's humble statement made my heart melt. "Michael, I'm not feeling uncomfortable. I hope you can keep thinking this way." Michael's tall figure paused. Then he turned around in disbelief. "What's the meaning?" I just looked at him with a smile. "It means that I allow you to like me. After all, I like you too." How can I describe Michael's happiness at that moment? Anyway, there was a sudden light in his beautiful eyes, as bright as stars. So when Michael hugged me excitedly, I hugged him back. He said, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome. Just change the rules in our company that forbid office romances." Michael smiled. "It has already been changed." End of text. Michael Extra. I met Jacob when I came to the company for an interview. I never participate in this kind of interview, but I just suddenly thought of going to take a look that day. Then I noticed a little boy. No reason, he's good looking. With a touch of the warmth and softness unique to the Jiangnan water towns, her voice was clean and gentle when answering the interviewer. It made me look sideways several times. But it was just a few glances. When I saw him again, he had become a full-time member of the company. It seems his name is Jacob. One day, he came to give me a report. The writing is immature and has loopholes. But you can see that you tried hard. I hit him back mercilessly and asked him to continue writing. The second time, there were still loopholes. I criticized him in a low voice, hit him back, and asked him to work overtime. Jacob lowered his head respectfully to listen to the lecture, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes were beautiful and sparkling. But I somehow feel that he is like a little fox with a lot of thoughts. So one night after working overtime, I somehow went to his department. I want to see if this little fox has run away. The result is no. He was listlessly revising the report by himself, mumbling to himself as he went along. I leaned over to listen. Okay, you are scolding me. The scolding is quite interesting. Some leaders are just too busy. When a manure truck passes by their house, they probably use a spoon to taste the saltiness. Alas, the wine is good, the cup is luminous, the cows and horses drink one, and I drink one. As he was cursing, he fell asleep. I am happy. It's quite interesting, so interesting that I remember him. After that day, I couldn't help but look at him twice more every time. This attention naturally evolved into liking, then love, and then into an indescribable impulse. But Jacob is a straight man and my subordinate. I was afraid that he would feel sick, that he would be afraid of me, and that he would stay away from me. So I thought I had been hiding it well. Until one day, Jacob hugged me. He said he knew what I was thinking and that he liked me too. He also said that he was grateful to God for letting him know all this. After listening to it, I agreed wholeheartedly. Actually, I should be grateful. Thank God for letting him love me.